At my birthday party my father said, "You add nothing to this family." So I nodded, walked out and canceled the $10,000 monthly payments. Hey, before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button and drop your location in the comments. I want to know how far our stories travel. I stood in the center of my parents' living room, 32 candles melting into the cake nobody was eating, when my father said the words that ended everything. "You add nothing to this family, Elise. You never have." His voice was cold, matter-of-fact, like he was commenting on the weather. My mother didn't even look up from her phone. My brother Melvin smirked from the couch and my sister Vanessa actually laughed. The room fell silent except for the pop music playing from someone's speaker. I'd flown in from Seattle for this. Took 3 days off work. Brought gifts. Wore the dress my mother said she liked. But that wasn't what made my hands shake. It was remembering the bank notification I'd gotten that morning. $10,000 transferred to family support, like I'd done every single month for the past 4 years. "Dad, I just paid for this house," I said quietly. Nobody responded. My Aunt Rochelle, who'd been quiet in the corner, suddenly stood up. "Anderson, that's enough." But my father waved her off. "She needs to hear the truth. Always showing off, acting like she's better than us because she got some tech job." I looked at the cake. Champagne flavored, my favorite that I'd ordered myself. The decorations I'd paid for. The catering bill in my purse. Something inside me cracked open, but instead of pain, I felt clarity wash over me like cold water. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and started typing. My finger hovered over "Cancel recurring payment." Then I pressed it. I looked up at my father and smiled. "Hey," I said. Then I walked out. "Let me take you back to understand how it got here." 4 years ago, I was 28, freshly promoted to senior software engineer at a Fortune 500 company in Seattle. My salary jumped to $240,000 plus stock options. I was the first person in my family to make 6 figures, let alone $250,000. When I called home excited, my mother cried. But they weren't tears of pride. "Baby, your father lost his job," she said. "They're threatening foreclosure. We're going to lose the house." The house in Charlotte where I grew up, where my childhood memories lived in every corner. Where Sunday dinners happened and Christmas mornings sparkled. I couldn't let them lose it. "How much do you need?" I asked. $50,000 to catch up. Then maybe help with monthly payments. Her voice was small, ashamed. I didn't hesitate. I wired the $50,000 that week. Then I set up automatic payments, $10,000 a month. It was nearly half my take-home pay after taxes and my own bills, but they were family. My father had worked construction for 30 years before his injury. My mother had cleaned houses to put food on our table. This was my chance to pay them back. Melvin was 29, still finding himself. Vanessa was 26, working part-time at a boutique. Neither contributed to the household. But I didn't judge. I was blessed. I could help. That's what family does, right? I thought I was being a good daughter. I thought I was honoring them. I was so stupid. The first sign came 6 months in. I flew home for Thanksgiving, exhausted from a brutal project launch. I'd been working 80-hour weeks, living on coffee and takeout. When I arrived, Melvin was driving a brand new Dodge Challenger. Matte black, custom rims, the works. "Nice car," I said. He grinned. "Yeah, early Christmas present to myself. Cost $45,000, but I got good financing." Something twisted in my stomach. "You got a new job?" He laughed. "Nah, still doing DoorDash. But Mom and Dad helped with the down payment." I looked at my mother, who was suddenly very interested in the turkey. "We had some extra," she said quickly. My money. Being used to buy Melvin a sports car while I drove a 6-year-old Honda. I let it go. Maybe I was being selfish. But then there was Vanessa's trip to Dubai. 3 weeks, 5-star hotels, posts all over Instagram. Wow V, how'd you afford that? I asked during a FaceTime call. She waved her hand dismissively. Oh, Dad gave me some money. Said I deserved a vacation. Dad gave her my money for a vacation that cost more than most people's annual salary. Christmas that year I came home with gifts for everyone. Thoughtful, expensive gifts. I got a gas station gift card from Melvin, nothing from Vanessa, and a generic World's Best Daughter mug from my parents. The mug still had the clearance sticker on it. 99 cents. I gave them $10,000 a month and got 99 cents in return. But family is family, right? By year 2 the requests started coming. Elise, honey, Melvin needs help with his credit card debt. My mother called one Tuesday. How much? I asked, already tired. 15,000. He made some mistakes, but he's learning. I sent the money. 2 months later, Vanessa's car broke down. She needs a new one. Another 10,000 for a down payment. 3 months after that, your father's truck needs a new transmission. Can you cover it? Every call was the same. A problem, a price tag, an expectation that I'd handle it. Nobody ever said thank you. Nobody ever asked how I was doing. During one visit, I mentioned I was stressed about a potential layoff. Well, you'll figure it out, my father said, not looking up from his TV show. You're smart. But when his poker night got expensive, suddenly it was urgent that I help. I started tracking the expenses. Beyond the monthly $10,000, I'd sent an additional $93,000 in emergencies over 18 months. That was real money. House buying money. Retirement money. My own future money. I was living in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, eating rice and beans half the week, so they could have steak dinners and weekend trips. My coworker Jasmine noticed me eating ramen again. Girl, didn't you just get another raise? She asked. I shrugged. Family stuff. She frowned. Family or family taking advantage? There's a difference. I laughed it off, but her words haunted me. That night, I lay in bed staring at my banking app, watching the numbers drain, wondering when it would be enough. Turns out, never. Aunt Rochelle was my father's younger sister, 54 years old, with wisdom that came from surviving 2 divorces and building her own successful catering business. She'd always been different from the rest of the family. Independent, honest, sometimes brutally so. We'd gotten closer over the past year through random phone calls where she'd check on me. How you really doing, baby? She'd ask. Not how's work. Not how's the money. How are you? 3 months before my birthday, she called me at 11 p.m. Seattle time. Elise, I need to tell you something and you're not going to like it. My heart dropped. Is someone sick? No, baby. But I was at your mama's house today. Anderson was showing Melvin his new fishing boat. I gripped the phone. His what? A Bass Pro Shop special. 22-foot pontoon boat. Cost about $35,000. He was bragging about it to the neighbors. I couldn't breathe. My father, who claimed he couldn't afford his mortgage, had bought a boat. With my money. Rochelle, are you sure? Baby, I took pictures. I'm texting them now. My phone buzzed. There was a beautiful boat with Nicholson family painted on the side. My last name. Bought with my money. Without asking me. Without thanking me. There's more, Rochelle said softly. I heard your mama telling her church friends that you're finally contributing to the family after all they did for you. Like you owe them. Like you haven't been keeping them afloat. That's when I started planning. Not revenge. Just boundaries. But first I needed to see it for myself. I flew home unannounced 2 weeks later, telling my boss I had a family emergency. I rented a car instead of asking for pickup. I drove past their house at 8 a.m. on a Thursday. My father's broken-down truck sat in the driveway, gleaming and clearly repaired. The boat was parked beside it. The house had new shutters, a professionally landscaped yard, and what looked like a freshly painted exterior. I sat in my rental car and calculated. New shutters, probably 3,000. Landscaping, at least 5,000 for that level of work. Paint job, another 6,000. The boat, 35,000. Melvin's car, 45,000. Vanessa's Dubai trip, at least 15,000. This didn't include the mysterious emergencies I'd funded. I'd sent them close to $500,000 over 4 years, and they'd spent it like lottery winners. I called my bank. I need statements for every transaction to the Nicholson family account for the past 4 years. They emailed them within an hour. I sat in a Starbucks parking lot, going through every line. My hands shook as the truth materialized. $493,847.23. Nearly $500,000. Gone. Not to survival. To luxury. That night I showed up for dinner unannounced. "Elise. What a surprise," my mother said, flustered. I smiled. "Just missed you guys." Over pot roast I'd surely paid for, I watched them. My father complained about how expensive everything was. Melvin talked about needing new tires for his Challenger. Vanessa mentioned wanting to visit Paris next. Nobody asked about me. I was an ATM with a pulse. After dinner I hugged them all. "Love you," I said. They barely responded. I left knowing exactly what I had to do. I planned my 32nd birthday party meticulously. I told my family I wanted to celebrate with them in Charlotte, my treat. I'd handle everything, venue, food, decorations. "Just show up and celebrate with me," I said. My mother sounded surprised. "Oh honey, that's so sweet. We'd love to." For once they seemed almost excited. Maybe because they thought it meant more money coming their way. I booked their favorite restaurant's private room. Spent $3,000 on catering from Aunt Rochelle's company. She deserved the business and I trusted her. I ordered my champagne cake from the bakery I'd loved since childhood. I sent invitations to the extended family. Cousins, aunts, uncles, family, friends. 40 people RSVP'd yes. This would be witnessed. I also did something else. I called my lawyer, Glenn Harris, who'd helped me set up my estate planning. "I need to document some things," I said. I showed him the bank statements, the pattern of requests, the boat pictures, everything. "This is financial exploitation," he said carefully. "You could potentially sue." I shook my head. "I don't want their money back. I want it stopped. Can you help me draft a cease and desist letter?" "Absolutely. But Elise, are you sure about this approach?" I smiled. "I need them to hear it. Out loud. In front of everyone. I need witnesses to understand why I'm done." He nodded slowly. "All right. Let's make sure you're protected." We spent 2 hours drafting documents, securing my assets, ensuring they couldn't claim I'd promised them anything legally binding. The day before the party I transferred my final payment. $10,000. The last they'd ever receive from me. I felt surprisingly calm. Saturday night, 6 p.m. I arrived early at the restaurant, wearing a royal blue dress my mother had once said brought out my eyes. I wanted to look good for this. Aunt Rochelle was already there setting up the catering. She hugged me tight. "You sure about this, baby?" she whispered. I nodded. I've never been more sure of anything. Guests arrived. Cousins I hadn't seen in years, family, friends, neighbors from my childhood. They congratulated me, asked about Seattle, seemed genuinely interested in my life. It felt good. Normal. Then my immediate family arrived. My father wore a polo shirt that still had the tag tucked in the back. Expensive. Melvin and Vanessa looked annoyed to be there, checking their phones constantly. Happy birthday, sis, Melvin said flatly. Vanessa handed me a gift bag with crumpled tissue paper, clearly rewrapped from something else. My parents hugged me and my mother said, "This is lovely, dear." Not, "Thank you for doing this." Just an observation. I smiled. "I'm glad you came. Dinner was beautiful. Aunt Rochelle had outdone herself. Caribbean jerk chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, all my favorites. People ate, laughed, shared stories. My father held court at one end of the table talking about his poker games and his boat. "Yeah, finally got myself a nice pontoon. Man deserves to relax," he said. Several relatives glanced at me uncomfortably. They knew. Everyone knew where the money came from. At 7:30 they brought out my cake. 32 candles flickering. Everyone sang. I closed my eyes, made a wish, not for reconciliation but for peace, and opened them to my father's cold stare. "Can I say something?" he asked. My father stood, wine glass in hand. I thought maybe he'd toast me. "Silly, I know. Since we're all here," he began, his voice carrying that edge I'd learned to fear as a child, "I want to talk about family responsibility." My stomach dropped. This wasn't a toast. Elise here makes good money. Real good money out there in Seattle. He looked around the room. And she helps us out, which is nice. But lately she's been acting like that makes her special. Like she's better than us. Murmurs rippled through the guests. Aunt Rochelle's fork clattered on her plate. "Dad," I started, but he cut me off. "Let me finish. You know what your problem is, Elise? You add nothing to this family. You never have. You think writing checks makes you valuable? That's just money. You're never here. You don't call enough. You forgot Vanessa's birthday last year. You missed Melvin's court date." "His what?" I interrupted. "Melvin had a court date? See, you don't even know. Too busy with your fancy job, your fancy life. You send money like that fixes everything, but where are you? You add nothing except cash. No real presence. No real love." His words were knives, each one finding a soft spot. My mother nodded along. Vanessa smirked. Melvin wouldn't meet my eyes. The room was silent. 40 people watching my humiliation. I felt tears threaten, but something else rose up stronger. Clarity. Cold hard clarity. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, found the recurring payment screen. My finger hovered over cancel. I looked at my father standing there so confident, so sure he'd put me in my place. "Hey," I said. Then I pressed delete. The payment disappeared. "I'm done." I stood up, my chair scraping loud in the silent room. "Let me tell you what I've added to this family, Dad. In 4 years, I've sent you $493,847.23. I have the bank statements." I pulled out my phone, pulled up the document. "That's not including tonight. This party. $3,000 for the venue and food. The mortgage you couldn't pay? I paid it. Still paying it, actually. $10,000 a month for 48 months. That's $480,000 right there." My father's face went red. "Elise, sit down." "No." My voice was steady. "Strong. The boat you bought last spring? The $35,000 boat? That was my money. Melvin's Challenger? My money. Vanessa's trip to Dubai? My money. The new shutters, the landscaping, the paint job, Dad's new truck transmission? Oh, my money." Aunt Rochelle started clapping slowly. Then my cousin Terence joined. Then others. My father looked around, furious and embarrassed. "You ungrateful." "I'm ungrateful?" I laughed, and it sounded foreign even to me. I worked 80-hour weeks. I lived in a tiny apartment eating ramen. I postponed buying a house, starting a family, living my life so you could have boats and sports cars and vacations. My mother found her voice. "We raised you. We sacrificed for you. You did, I agreed. For 18 years. And I've spent 4 years paying you back with half my salary. Or even, no. I overpaid by about $400,000. So here's what happens now. No more monthly payments. No more emergency funds. No more bailing out Melvin or funding Vanessa's wanderlust. You want a family member who adds nothing? Fine. I'll add nothing. Starting now. I grabbed my purse. I walked toward the exit. My mother grabbed my arm. Elise, please, we can talk about this. I looked at her hand on my sleeve. Take your hand off me. Something in my voice made her let go. We needed that money, she said desperately. Your father's injury was 4 years ago. He's been working under-the-table construction jobs for 2 years. I saw him at a site last year when I visited. He just didn't tell me because why work hard when your daughter's a sucker? Her face confirmed the truth. I felt physically sick. How did you know? She whispered. Aunt Rochelle told me. She's the only one in this family who actually loves me instead of my bank account. I looked back at the table. My father sat there deflated. Melvin looked scared. Vanessa was crying, probably realizing her Paris trip just evaporated. You all made a choice, I said to the room. You chose to see me as a resource instead of a daughter, sister, a person. You chose to mock me, belittle me, and take from me while giving nothing back. Not even basic respect. So I'm choosing too. I'm choosing me. I turned to Aunt Rochelle. Thank you for everything. Send me the final bill for the catering. Baby, it's already paid, she said softly. I nodded. Then I'll see you soon. I looked at my father one last time. You said I add nothing to this family. You're right. From now on, I won't add a single thing. Congratulations, Dad. You finally told me the truth and I finally heard it. I walked out into the Charlotte night, got in my rental car and drove to my hotel. My phone started ringing immediately. I blocked every number. All of them. The texts started within hours. First from my mother. Elise, please call. We can work this out. Then Melvin, you're seriously going to abandon us over a stupid argument? Vanessa, you're being so dramatic. Dad was drunk. He didn't mean it. But I knew drunk words were sober thoughts. And my father had been stone cold sober. By Sunday morning, I had 63 missed calls, 41 text messages, and 7 voicemails. I listened to one from my father. Elise, you're being childish. We're family. You can't just cut us off because you got your feelings hurt. Call me back so we can discuss this like adults. Like adults. The audacity was almost impressive. I called Aunt Rochelle instead. How bad is it? I asked. She sighed. Your mama's calling everyone in the family, trying to make you look like the villain. Saying you abandoned them, that you're selfish, that they don't know how they'll survive. But baby, a lot of folks were at that party. They heard what your daddy said. They saw you walk out with dignity. The family's split. Split. Half think you're wrong to cut them off completely. Half think you should have done it years ago. Your cousin Michelle called me this morning. Said she's been supporting her parents for 6 years and feels trapped. Your story gave her courage. That hit me hard. I didn't want to cause problems. Baby, you didn't cause anything. You revealed what was already there. That's different. Monday back in Seattle, I got an email from my father. Long, rambling, mixing apologies with justifications and ending with, "We're going to lose the house without your help. Is that what you want?" I deleted it. Tuesday, Melvin showed up at my Seattle apartment. I don't know how he got my address. I didn't answer. 3 months later, I sat in my new condo overlooking Elliott Bay, watching the sunset paint the water gold. It was mine. Fully mine. I'd used my savings, The money I'd been hoarding for my family's next emergency, as a down payment. 2 bedrooms, a real kitchen, a view that made me cry the first time I saw it. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Hello. Elise? It's Aunt Rochelle. I wanted to give you an update. I braced myself. They okay? They're fine. Your mama got a full-time job at the hospital. Administrative work. Your daddy's doing construction jobs openly now. Turns out he's been fine for years. Melvin moved out, got his own apartment, started working full-time. Vanessa's talking about going back to school. I absorbed this. So they're surviving. More than surviving, baby. They're functioning. Like normal adults. Turns out they didn't need your money. They needed a wake-up call. I felt tears coming. Do they ask about me? Silence. Then, your mama does. The others are too proud. But Elise, you did the right thing. I'm proud of you. We talked for an hour. She told me about starting a relationship with a kind man named Xavier, about expanding her catering business, about the family members who'd reached out to her for advice on setting boundaries. My story had ripples. Good ones. After we hung up, I looked around my condo. I'd furnished it slowly, carefully, choosing pieces I loved instead of the cheapest options. I had a real bed frame. Art on the walls. Plants that were thriving because I had time to care for them. I was dating someone. Trevor, a teacher I'd met at a bookstore. He thought I was fascinating just for being me. I didn't add nothing to my family. I'd added everything. And when that wasn't enough, I finally added myself back to my own life. That was the greatest gift I could have given anyone.